Let's visit the 90s all over again. Put on those hammer pants. This is Dope Nostalgia.
Hello, my friends. This is episode. It's kind of crazy to believe this is the 131st episode of Dope Nostalgia. Wow, time flies. I'm your host, Naomi. The gentlemen we had on the show today are really wonderful guys to talk to. They're the original members of a group. Okay, when this first started, you'll know them by the name Blessed Union of Souls. That's what they were called in the 90s. And then this is a new incarnation of the original members. So you'll see if you're out looking for information on them, there's ReUnion of Souls and Blessed Union of Souls. So not to confuse you, I'm going to tell you all about ReUnion of Souls today, the 4 founding members of the group who joined me on the show. Before we get to that, let me give you a little bit of background. This is ReUnion of Souls.
Wikipedia moment.
What you're hearing right now is the instrumental track of the original version of their hit song called I Believe. It was a huge smash. Here's a little information on them straight from their bio at reunionofsouls.com. The ReUnion of Souls is made up of the original founding members of the Blessed Union of Souls reuniting for the first time in over 10 years. In the 1990s, you couldn't turn on the radio without hearing one of their hits. Their smash debut hit, I Believe, on EMI Records reached #1 at radio in the spring of 1995. They released 4 more top 40 hits until 1999, when they released another smash hit called Hey Leonardo, She Likes Me for Me, on Richard Branson's label V2, climbing to the top 10 for most of that summer. Their music was heard in movies like Contact, starring Jodie Foster, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, starring Jim Carrey, and the Pokemon movie, just to name a few. They have also been heard on many television series. Their songs have been performed by contestants on American Idol, America's Got Talent, and The Voice. They were known to radio stations all over as one of the hardest working bands in the business, never failing to stop in a station for an interview or on-air performance as they toured extensively all across America and most of Europe. No band has ever been more face-to-face with their fans, as they would tirelessly sign autographs after every show for sometimes hours as to leave no fan behind. They always left it all on the stage with an impressive high-energy performance, with fans singing along with all their hits. Members include Eddie Hedges, Jeff Pence, Tony Clark, C.P. Roth. These are the 4 members that joined me for a very special interview. Welcome to Dope Nostalgia, the ReUnion of Souls.
There we go. What's going on, girl?
Hi,
How you doing?
Eddie, right?
I'm Eddie. Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I'm
Nice
Naomi.
to meet you. How you doing?
Excellent.
Good. Good.
I want to make sure before I start, obviously, that everyone's here. Don't want to.
Yep. Tony's here.
What's
Hello,
up?
Tony.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. All the way from Canada.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah. What is the Canada? What do they say in Canada? Is there like a saying or something in Canada?
We have a few choice
Other
words
than-
being like
yeah.
a,
A.
something, a at the
Or
end of almost any statement.
Yeah. Or a boat? A boat?
A boot. Okay, people tell me that I say a boot, but I don't hear it. I think I say
Yeah.
about.
we had a
Well,
guitar
that time-
tech,
that
Neville.
time you did.
He was Canadian, right? He used to say those things.
Who is
Oh,
that?
Neville. He used to say things.
Oh yeah.
Our
Yeah.
guitar tech. It's Canadian.
He did. He did. Neville.
Are you all from Cincinnati?
Yes.
Awesome.
Well,
I
except
mean, we, don't
Charlie.
live, we don't live there now. Well, he's from New York. Where's Charlie from? He's from New York?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're all from Cincinnati, but now I'm in LA. Tony is in Cincinnati still.
I'm stuck.
in the snow. And Jeff is in Florida.
All over.
Yeah, we're all spread out. Makes it kind of tough for us.
I was gonna say, how have you been pulling that off? Can you rehearse remotely? Because I know it's really hard to sync up timing, especially over Zoom. It doesn't seem to work.
No,
Make it till you make it, man. That's it.
we record it, and then everybody practices with all the other people. You know, it's
On their own.
from the recording. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we made
Yeah.
it work.
Yeah,
We've had a little time to figure that out.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is. I heard
There
it.
you go. I heard it. It's time to
Figure it out.
Oh, I didn't even notice it. See, that's crazy.
I see. Hey, all right. There you go. You know we're gonna mess with you now, right? We're gonna mess with you on all that.
As you should, honestly. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, Charlie. Thanks for
Hi,
making
how are
it.
you, Naomi? How are
I'm
you? Thank you so
good.
much for having us.
Hey, I'm so glad you guys all made this work, that we could all be together in the same room, basically.
And I'm
virtually.
sorry that my phone makes it look like I have a greased filter, but my phone's from the Truman administration, so you know, it's been around a while.
It's got T9 on it.
Yeah,
Look like it's got some chicken grease on it.
yeah. I'm actually linking through Friendster on this, so
Oh,
yeah.
that's what it.
That's incredible.
You can tell, Naomi. You can tell we haven't seen each other in a while, right?
Oh, I'm glad we could get
know.
you all together. I want to welcome all of you to the show. It's nice to have every member here included. And we are a podcast about we focus on bands who did spectacular things in the 90s and what they're doing now. So tell me, since you guys are the original members of the band, how it all started. But briefly, because I know you probably had to tell that story a million times.
Briefly, then maybe I shouldn't tell it.
I know. Tony's got.
Go for it. Go for it.
Charlie gets really in depth. Basically, what it was, Jeff and I were in a band called Slam. I was a singer, drummer, and he needed a singer. I left to go play with a band called Belle Biv DeVoe, and he needed a singer, and I introduced him to Elliot, and that's how the band kind of started. And then when they started recording, Charlie was in New York, but he was coming in doing all the keyboard work. And then when it was time to tour, we finally put the band together. We brought Tony in, and boom, we took off.
Now,
That's
Eddie,
a short story.
And CP
Man,
was
that is the Reader's Digest version.
That's a clip notes.
beautifully condensed.
and CP was the associate producer as well.
Yes,
Fantastic.
yes.
Now, Eddie, from what I understand, you were the drummer, but now you're the vocalist, correct?
Yes.
He was always the vocalist.
I
too.
was, yeah.
I mean, he always was the lead singer. We just had him singing backup most of the time. Every now and then he would sing lead.
Yeah. The thing was, I mean, when I was with Jeff in his first band, I was the singer. I always played drums. Elliot and I were in another band where he was my keyboard player and I was the lead singer. And then when we put this together, you know, Jeff, Charlie and Elliot started working on the record. And when the record was done, the single that came out was I Believe. And that was Elliot's voice. So we're like, okay, well, now he's the singer. Let's go. You know, and that's kind of, yeah, you know, so, and that's what they're working on. Cause I was in LA. I think I was playing with Sheila E. at the time. So I was her drummer.
By the way, I have to interrupt him to say this all the time because I'm a drummer as well.
Yes.
Naomi, do you know how good a drummer you have to be Sheila E.'s drummer?
I mentally just went, wait a second.
Yeah.
Sheila E.'s drummer?
Yeah. Do you know how
incredible.
good you have to be?
You know, and you know what Sheila would do? She would come to rehearsals and she would go, she wouldn't give me a chart, nothing. You know?
Oh, she was Rick Derringer, was she?
Yeah, she would give me either a CD or a cassette, and she would say, "Learn this." Okay, and that was before lunch, so I had to learn it so that when we came back in after lunch, I better have it down. You know, so I had it down. You know, but the thing with Sheila was, you know, those drum machines, the MPC 60 drum machines, you know, that Prince used a lot. The Lynn, he used a lot of these machines to play those loops underneath her song. Well, it was my job not only to play drums, but to start and stop the drum machine. I was like, Sheila, can you give me like a foot pedal? Because my hands are busy right now. She said, no, just reach over and start it and stop it. And she said, but make sure you start it and stop at the same time we start and stop playing. I was like, okay.
Oh, that trick.
Yeah. And the best part about it was, there's a little screen and there's a little backlight so you can see, what song you're turning it to. The light was broke. I was like, can we maybe get the light fixed? Nah, you'll be okay. Just hold your phone up there or something. You'll be all right. I was like, good gracious, man, this gets tougher and tougher, But, it got me prepared for the Blessed Union,
What a challenge. Oh my goodness.
We were a lot nicer to him.
Yeah. It wasn't as tough. And it was much, and we had more fun on the bus. So.
And he didn't have to push any buttons. Chuck did that.
Yeah, I didn't have to push
I did all the button pushing, except Eddie had to duck for an occasional misthrown water bottle.
You got me once.
Yeah.
You got me once. Almost took me off the stool.
I threw a water bottle just up in the air and it landed right on his head and it was full. And it wasn't like a little, I could never repeat that if I had aimed. It would have, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of rocked me at the time. We were playing a boom, you go like, okay, so what was that?
That was the night that Charlie almost died because Eddie's brother was a drum tech and he saw that happen.
And my brother is really protective.
I don't know what he thought, but he went crazy.
No, I was going to get the double hedges beat down.
I know. Blessed Union of WTE.
Yeah.
I talked my way out of it with my obvious New York City charm.
Yeah. And a gift. And a gift.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too.
Pride.
Hey, they don't call it a peace pipe for nothing, my friend.
No, they just calm you down.
Yeah. See, because I was wondering if you considered doing some kind of a Phil Collins type of setup there when you were singing.
Well, actually, you don't know how close you are. So, the one.
He's frozen.
Who, me?
You froze for a second.
Oh, okay.
I think he really froze. Like it was not tech, it was him.
It was physical.
The one thing that I never did with the band that I always considered my first instrument to be drums. I played bass and keys live with the band. There was a little bit of drumming that I did early on in the studio with these guys. But I mean, once you bring in Eddie, what the hell am I going to do? But the difference between me and Eddie, the main difference that you see right away on stage is Eddie plays drums right-handed, I'm left-handed. So we have to have two kits on the stage, much like the way Phil Collins and Chester Thompson had it because Phil is a left-handed drummer. So, and a huge influence to me. You kids playing the drums, listen to Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. It's the only drum lesson you'll ever need. Anyway, sermon over. But so we have the two kits on stage, and actually we do a double drum solo as part of the show. But, Eddie and I are constantly talking, we're sort of expanding the set list now. So we're talking about Eddie unusually finds it more taxing to be out in front entertaining people than sitting behind a kit and singing. And I kind of sympathize with that because when I come out front for Oh Virginia, I come back from that. I've been drumming the entire set and I come back from that
I know.
Man, what the hell did I just do? So, and just talking to the audience and kind of tap dancing, making sure everybody's entertained all the time,
Yeah.
So we're always going to be mixing that up. And I just love that, we can both be drummers on the same day. It's an honor for me. I mean, really.
Well, and me too. I mean,
no smoke,
yeah.
But really, when you look at a video of me and Eddie doing a double drum solo, it's like, we're just in the happiest place on earth. It's first of all, it's me and him. We're not dead. Yep. So, that counts for something. And Yeah, we're just doing the thing we love to do. It's just the most awesome thing. And
Yeah,
I'm
the
so
best thing
happy
is-
that we
yeah.
get to share that with the fans, you know?
Yeah, and the thing is, we just go. It's not like, okay, this is what we're going to play, and then we're going to do this, and then we just go. It's like,
I'm
okay,
usually the
set,
guy.
go.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I'm
have
usually the
fun.
bossy Nancy with like a plan, but then like it's Eddie Hedges. So no, we'll just go play.
we'll just go for it. We just play, and it works out. It's really cool. You know, we have some plans for this upcoming show too. So, you know, by the way, I was going to spring this on the guys later, but I'm thinking there's a part of the show where Charlie, you'll start out playing the drums, and then there's a section where the keyboard part plays, and I'll jump back in on the drums, and then there's a break, and then you can come back in, and I'll run back on. It's going to be fun, and I'll tell you which song that is later.
I better bring my Nikes.
That's it, man. You got to run.
You live in New York.
Just-
You're used to it.
Yeah, you know,
Oh,
in New
yeah.
York, that's all you do.
Nobody walks faster than Charlie, and that's the reason why.
Man, when
Oh.
I met these guys and we're going to like,
You get a hip injury, just try.
you're getting dropped off at parking lots to go to these big like radio stations. And I get out of the car and I go, and the reason, and these guys are walking like they're in like a field somewhere in like central Ohio, just like they're kind of like grazing in the grass. It's a gas, baby, can you dig it? And I
Can
like
you
went
dig it?
zip. And they used to think like their first impression of that was, look at that douche, like, you know, walking ahead of everybody else. And I had to explain to them that when I lived in New York in the mid to late 70s, you know, 76, 78, 79, man, you look at the history of that city, and I was a skinny little punk rocker with like the purple, you know, straight up, you know, buzz cut, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you had to walk fast. My apartment was right in the middle between the walk down to CBGB's and up to Max's Kansas City, which were like the two legendary clubs. And man, it wasn't Indian Hills. Let me just tell you
No.
that.
Yeah, it was a little busy.
Yeah, little busy.
It was a little busy. You kind of had to walk fast.
There was some fellas out there with hobbies. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's yeah.
So
And they could, and you know what? And they could pick out the boys from Ohio. They could pick them out.
Yeah,
You know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
They could,
But it was funny. Like we were constantly asked, just because, you know, people don't do any research in the band, and they say, well, I'm looking at this band, so let me ask them this question. So we, especially in the early days, we were asked, like, if there was some weird ass cultural deal being an interracial band. And we'd all just start laughing because the four of these guys would go, hell no, it's that guy. Because, you know, they were so, and, you know, my mom grew up, Yellow Springs is about 50 miles north of Cincy?
yeah, not too far. Yeah.
My mom grew up like 50 miles north of Cincinnati. I've been out there all the time. So I knew the vibe out there growing up. You know, it wasn't like total culture shock, but that was it. I mean, we used to tell them it's the difference between the Cincinnati Reds and the New York Mets.
That those were kind of fighting words. We kind of left that alone.
Yeah, we could. Bud Harrelson and Pete Rose's name were not allowed on the bus.
Nah. We did get autographs though. We did.
Yeah.
We did get their autographs. So, but nah, it was fun. It was definitely fun.
No
So-
kidding. Well, I can imagine that when I Believe hit the charts, there must have been a huge amount of excitement around it. And now you were mentioning to me earlier that although Eddie is the singer of the band, Elliot had the vocals on that song. Is that correct?
Yeah. Back when we were, you know, when we were Blessed Union of Souls, you know, then, you know, because I Believe came out first, then we thought, okay, we can't confuse the audience. Elliot's the singer. We'll just leave it that way. And that's how we toured for a long time, you know. And then later on, when you know, the thing started everybody kind of started doing other things, you know, then we came back together, and you know, we built that whole brand of Blessed Union of Souls, like I said, and we're still together, you know. So we're still going out doing dates. It's just that now, you know, I'm singing a lot, I mean, we're all singing still, but I'm
Yeah.
doing all the lead stuff, and we're just trying to keep it interesting because I do a lot. I sing from the kit, you know, and then I'll go out front and sing, and Charlie takes over. You know, we just bounce back and forth, but you know, we still have a lot of fun doing it.
Everyone in the band's so like multi-talented and able to play all these different parts and instruments. It's really nice.
Well, I can only do two. I can play drums and sing. Yeah, that's about it.
Really, it came, the way it started was just these guys just writing song after song after song after song. I think the count of what we had available to cull from for the first album was about 35 songs. And when I say 35 songs, I'm talking about the ones that we finished. You know, I'm not talking about like, oh, that's kind of an idea. I don't know if it counts as a song, you know. So we had 35 finished songs, not finished for an album, but, you know, completely fully demoed out. And when you're doing things at that pace, you know, a guy walks in, hey, can you play guitar? You know, or like a guy walks in, like, can you do a percussion? You know, just like, you got to get the thing documented and done. So, you know, we presented ourselves as a band with guys with roles, because again, you just don't want to confuse the audience. But the collective creative teamwork that was constantly going on in the studio was always, you know, always in flux, which is one way to just keep things fresh. You know, where you're not constantly remaking your first album,
which is important.
At least in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's true. It's
Everybody
true.
kind of turned out to be like utility guys. I mean, you know, everybody in the band does more than one thing. And when I entered the band, I was just the bass player. And at one point, when we released our second record, we had so many guitar tracks, and Charlie's a great bass player. They're like, well, Tony, you got to play guitar now. So I had to figure that one out. I actually became pretty good at it. And then I wanted to play in a little bit of keys, I think, on Leonardo Live. And just everybody was able to do other things. Everybody was great at the one thing they did, but they became, you know, everybody became stronger at other things that they were kind of good at. And that I think we were all utility players, all of us.
Yeah.
Very handy.
And this show coming up on July 3rd, we're going to have to do a little bit more of that. So Naomi, I'm springing this on the guys right now. They don't even know. So.
I'm liking that you're discussing the show with them for the first time.
For the first time. Yeah. So
we're definitely going to talk about July 3rd then. I wanted to, I'll get there. But first I wanted to say, I felt that I Believe, and I know a lot of people were inspired by the fact that it was ahead of its time lyrically, dealing with the subject of interracial relationships. How do you think that affected music at that time and compared to now? Does the song have the same effect?
I think the song still has the same effect. I think that just that everything has just gotten a little bit out there. You know what I mean? It was, when the song came out, it was kind of taboo. Ooh, don't talk about it. I mean, you know, come on, there's been, you know, biracial relationships for years, you know, and, you know, the problem though is it started to become uncomfortable because people started making it sound uncomfortable. It's really weird how, to me, it's really weird how somebody can start creating division where you weren't thinking about it before. You know, a group of people can kind of come in and kind of start steering people a certain way. Look, musicians, we're all just musicians. You know what I mean? We don't think of, I mean, personally, and I don't, but, and especially none of us, we don't think of it like that. But I know that when it came out, you know, the original writing, we used the N word, and they were pulling that off the radio. You know, we weren't allowed to do it. So it had to be a brother from the street, you know? And I think what people were missing was the actual content of the N word. And it wasn't so much that, you know, we were being, you know, dark in that sense, but it was like, the song was about Lisa's father, and this is how he felt, you know, and so many others did at the time. I don't think that honestly, I don't think a lot has changed. I don't think a lot has gotten much better. If anything, you know, there's some stuff that's gotten a little bit more twisted. But I think if, you know, that's why what we do, we constantly sing about love. Even the new stuff we write about love. And
He's not kidding.
you know, you know what it is? It's you know, because think about this for a minute, you know, I mean, like if more people would consider other people, then, you know, and where they're from and what they're about, and, you know, and not be so isolated in somebody else's world. It's like so many times, you know, listen, nobody's better than anybody just because they have more money. You know, nobody's better than anybody just because, you know, it's any kind of status. You know what? We're all here. We're all human. You know, there's a lot of people that have more opportunities, you know, because of, you know, where they're from or, you know, color of their skin, whatever the case may be. But it doesn't make you any better, you know. So, and that's the approach that we have. That's always the approach that we've had, you know, as a band. So, you know, I think
love
Jeff,
is the answer, and that's very, very much the important message there.
it is. And when you think about it, think about that. It truly is. You know, it's like, you know, when it gets down to the root of it, you know, why do you hate this person? Well, I don't know, because my dad said I should. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot. Listen, hatred is taught.
It is.
Hatred is taught. So how come we can't teach people to love? You know, that's
be a lot
what we're
easier.
about, you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cost anything. You know?
All right.
Should we check in on Jeff?
Yeah, where'd he go?
I don't know why he
No.
disappeared.
He does
Uh-oh.
that.
Scared.
He does that.
He's
He's a
okay.
sneaky guy. He'll be back.
He'll be
Okay.
back.
Is
The
it
only
okay?
thing that I can add to what Eddie said, sort of, you know, only because in the context of your question, because, you know, you said, how do you think it changed music? Well, I don't think any of us think we can change music. so you know,
And it does that on its own, but it always comes back around.
Jimi Hendrix changed music.
Yeah.
I like to tell girls I can play the drums. There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
difference.
Well, the Beatles, you know.
But I'll tell you, because, you know, one of my things is that, you know, not only am I sort of the band historian, but I'm very much into the history of especially rock and roll, but of the music business as a whole. I mean, I really, and once we had these opportunities, man, I just soaked it in and really tried to know everything about what was going on. But I'll tell you something interesting historically. So I Believe comes out in 1995, and it you know, it's about what it's about. Well, I start thinking back about what other songs in, like, maybe since the 60s have charted that have been about this subject matter. And I realized there were two. One was in 1967. It was a song called Society's Child by Janice Ian. It actually won Grammys, and it was produced by Shadow Morton, who produced the Shangri-Las. So the best thing about it is, not only is this a social slap in the face for 1967, but it sounds like the Shangri-Las. So it's totally awesome. So, and then
Cool.
I don't know, you might remember a band from down the road in Jersey, a band called Stories, I believe in 1973 or 1974, put out a single called The Ballad of Brother Louie. And that was, I don't know if I can sing things and you'll get snapped for the royalties, but Louie,
no.
Louie, Louie, Louie.
Yeah.
You know, it was a sort of a play on Louie Louie, but, you know, it was the
I've
song
heard
about
it.
this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was
Well,
a
yeah.
gigantic hit. And,
Well,
Do you know
and
why? Do you know why I heard it though? Because
Yeah.
Bon Jovi covered it in 1991.
well, it's
Yeah.
their backyard. That's where those guys,
Exactly.
it's the original, you know, all this Bruce, I mean, you know, hats off to him, but Stories was like the original Jersey Shore sound. I know a lot of those guys. I've been very lucky to meet a lot of them, play with some of them, but yeah, so that was Stories. Nothing in the 80s.
Well,
And
here was
then we
another
come
big one,
along-
though. There was another
What?
big one. Sly and Family Stone had Everyday People.
Mhm.
And that,
True, but it wasn't a song just about that relationship, you know?
I mean, it was about different genres, different people coming together.
right,
you know,
right.
That's kind of
But-
the, you know, still in that sense.
But what I thought was interesting was I can't really name a song like that in the 80s. I can't.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And then little old us come along in 1995 with this thing. Now, not only does it go number one, and yes, I'm bragging here, folks, so put up with me. It was the sixth, as in sixth, most played song on American radio in 1995. And that's what that dang song was about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And another thing I think is
Yeah.
I believe it actually had more spins than "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal. If I
Yeah.
remember,
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know.
So
But somebody at the label, and then I'll just stop right there.
Yeah, stop.
yeah.
Somebody at the label.
Well,
There's a reason why we
Anything-
call
anything-
EMI Records. Go ahead, Chuck.
Anything
Yeah,
that goes
yeah.
into the label isn't usually a good conversation.
I know, right?
There's 1,000 stories to start with that sentence.
Anything
But-
I've learned from
but-
this podcast is that the record label, the devil.
Yeah. Those-
You know, let me
It's
just say
different.
this. Let me just say this. Satan, at least from the materials that I've read on him, is a lot more motivated than your average record label. So I'm just saying that, you know.
Well, he had an ego too. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, you know what's
You got it.
you know what
Hey,
doesn't-
listen, his ego got him kicked out though. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, you know what doesn't slow Satan down? He doesn't have A&R men. He just has he hosts A&R men, but they're
Yeah.
not working for him.
No.
But
No.
That's funny.
Minions. He called them minions.
but Naomi, I will tell you this, and this is sort of universal. This doesn't really have to do with, you know, and it's kind of my personal take. I think these guys will agree with me.
Mm.
You know, we got the opportunity to make hit records, and then we went and made some hit records, and
Mhm.
your life gets really nutty when that happens. But the big thing, which they don't hand you a book for this, is dealing with fans. You know, like, I mean, you can be in a local band and people can adore you, and you can even be pulling 1,000 people in a club. But even with that, they're kind of like all your pals, you know?
Yeah.
But you're getting, you know, people are walking to a record store in Spokane, Washington, and buying your record, and they become fans. And I learned something, I learned a lot of stuff. It really changes you as a person, like just figuring out how you're going to deal with that, because it's weird. It's really weird. It's great. It's wonderful, but it's not a normal thing, you know?
Mhm.
But one thing I learned, and I kind of learned this from, of all bands, the Cars, Rick Ocasek, the way that he wrote songs is, you know, you read a lot of interviews with guys. They write this song and it means so much to them. They put it out and they really want people to understand their pain, because they're putting their pain, their precious little pain, out to you to write this song. But you know what? Soon as that kid hears that song on the radio, it's not your song anymore, pal. You've given it to them.
Mhm.
And that's how I've got to look at everything that we did, you know, like the quality of the songwriting, the quality of the productions, the quality of the performances, whatever. But once you put it out there, man, it's theirs to make of it what they're going to make of it. It's just, you know, like when we would make these records, man, I would live, eat, and breathe the records. And we do the mixes, you know, and I'm just in it. And then we go get it mastered, and I listen to the master. Listen to these masters, and I listened to the masters once just to make sure there was nothing I hated.
Mhm.
And then I'd wait to hear it because, you know, the station in Cincinnati was very friendly to us and really helped make us the band that we are. And so they would start banging the record right away. And I would listen to that in a car, you know, just hear what it sounded like being broadcast and receiving that on a car system. And after that, I was done with it. I mean, we would be playing that song live and promoting it. I had no interest in listening to that record again. I'm just like, you move on. You've given it.
Next.
You've given it to your fans, and, you know, and make a damn good show out of it now, you know?
Yeah. But the key was always, you know what? But the key was always to play the song the way the song was recorded. Because some bands, we remember the time we did the show with Bruce Hornsby And he
Oh,
played,
man.
That's Just the Way It Is.
Do you
I was
see?
like-
Do you see the Home Alone face I'm making here?
I know, right?
He was
I'm like-
Bruce had been partaking a little bit, I think. On
I was like, dude, what is he playing? And then he's like all over the place. Then all of a sudden you hear,
Eddie,
that's just the way it is. I was like, no, it isn't.
Eddie,
That ain't how it
Eddie,
is.
not
it's
the way
called
it is.
bebop. He was playing bebop.
Yeah. But then,
Oh,
you know what?
Jazz.
I mean, now here's another one. The guys from the Rembrandts, you know, Danny
I
and
love
Phil.
them.
I mean, Phil was like, he didn't even like the song. I was like, Phil, he says, I hate playing this song every night. I'm like, dude, you'll retire off of this song. It's the Friends theme song. They're going to play forever. You don't have to worry about it, you know?
Yep.
And those guys-
Naomi, I love those guys, but do you know what, man? Do you know what they did? So this is the first band that we're on tour with, and we're opening up for the Rembrandts, right? And the Friends theme is just knocking it out of the park. They hated that song so. And by the way, the two guys they had as a rhythm section were the best you could
Oh,
get.
yeah.
The nicest guys, and I mean, I'm telling you, A-list doesn't cover it. These
Yeah, those
guys,
cats
the
are
dudes
bad.
that they had.
Mhm.
And so they would come out, they would play 3 songs, and they'd play I'll Be There For You, and then they'd continue on their set. Now these guys thought, now this is my heart, the band XTC.
Yeah.
And these guys thought they were the American XTC. And I gotta say, a lot of their other material sounded like the American XTC, which I wasn't hating, but they played I'll Be There For You 4th. And by the end of their set,
Yeah.
Oh,
Ah, yeah.
everyone went to go get a drink and a
fellas,
bathroom break.
Yeah.
Well, they only had one other single, right? I mean, they had
Yeah.
The way it is,
What was it?
baby.
It was a pretty.
Yeah.
It was like a cool little jam. I remember
That's
that.
just the way it is, babe.
I love that
yeah.
song.
That
It
was a
actually
great song.
Which sounded like Squeeze.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was
Oh,
that
yeah.
was a great song. You know, those guys were wild though. I think
Oh,
well, we got away with it, but we stole a car. Who was it? Was it Danny or Phil? Who was I with? We stole that
it was
car.
you and Phil.
Oh, I forgot
You,
about
Phil?
that story.
Remember, we were at this club, and
We were in
there was
Portland.
this dancer. Let's just say this dancer, and she was a little full of herself, you know. So, so when she came back by the hotel after her dance show, you know, after they put the pole away, she came back to the hotel, and she was just snotty, and she left her car running in front of the hotel. And we looked at it and went, okay. So we just jumped in and took off. We almost got to, hey,
You
listen,
can get arrested for that.
we almost got to Canada. You know, because we were just driving. And we were like, and then all of a sudden we were like, I mean, the bridge was right up there. We were, where were we? We were in
Were we in Portland or
somewhere. We were almost in Canada. We were
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And we were like, we were going to go across the bridge. I was like, wait a second. What time is lobby call for you guys? You know, we're like, we gotta be on the bus at 6 a.m. It was like 4, you know. I think we should probably turn around so we don't get left.
Yeah.
I've been left before, so it's not a good thing. You know, I
Yeah.
got left in Pennsylvania once. So, you know, I got
And
off
how
the
did-
bus to use the bathroom and I didn't put my hat in the seat. There's a rule. When you get off the bus, you know, you have to put your hat in the driver's seat. So he knows that you're not back yet.
Okay.
I just, you know, it was, I don't know, sometime 5 a.m. or something. The bus stopped the fuel and I had to use the bathroom and I ran in real quick, didn't take my hat off. I came back and I saw the bus.
It was unbelievable.
I was like, and it was a Sunday. The office was closed. Remember that? I was like, oh man. And I went back in and I called the office. Nobody answered. I called the manager and he yelled at the bus driver. The bus driver let him have it because it wasn't his fault.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, well. So I went back into the trucker's lounge and I sat down and watched some Eddie Murphy movie or something, Metro or something. I just sat there and waited. I was like, I know they're going to come back and get me, you know? So, you
How
know,
far did they make it?
Cleveland, right? Did you guys get to Cleveland or something?
We were out.
We were literally driving, you know, on Route 8090 through downtown Cleveland when we got the call. And
The gig was in Cleveland, right?
Actually, I just spoke to Bobby the other day, so I got
Bobby's our driver. He was the bus driver.
Bobby was our driver. He was basically the sixth blessed union, you know.
Yeah.
Hilarious. He was so family. He was so family.
His family, and you know, these Nashville bus drivers, man, they got a saying for everything, and most of them I can't say on your podcast.
Right.
But yeah, so he was driving, and this is early in the morning. I mean, we stranded Eddie. It was still nighttime, I believe.
Yeah, I think.
And so I mean, the sun had just risen. Bobby gets this call from our office, and we had. I'm going to be kind. We had this guy working in our office, and he was an effing moron. All right, so he called, and he. I mean. Anyway, so he calls up Bobby and he goes, Bobby, you left Eddie at the last truck stop you stopped at, and it's your fault. You know what? You never said it's your fault to Bobby Edwards, even when it was Bobby Edwards' fault. And this one wasn't. I was sitting in the front lounge and he literally levitated off of his seat. I thought he was going to kick out the front windshield. He got so hopping mad. I thought I was going to have to take over the wheel, and he started calling this guy some choice Southern homilies, and then we had to turn the bus back around and drive 2 hours back, and go pick up Eddie, and then
got on the bus like
bring
this.
him back. Yeah,
I got right in my bunk. I got right in the bunk, closed the curtain. I was like, okay, I'm sorry.
Now, Eddie, I don't know if you told. There is actually a term for this.
Yeah, there is
a term. Yeah, grease spotting, which means when you walk out of the truck stop, all you see is a grease spot.
Yeah,
the bus ain't there.
Bus ain't there, but there's a little grease spot where it was.
Yeah.
So they grease spotted me. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you know, band talk. You know, I was talking to Mark McGrath, Sugar Ray, right?
Yeah.
And remember, he was talking about somebody was telling him that he had really bad breath. And I was like, yeah, every band has one. If it's either in the band or the crew, there's always somebody with bad breath. You know, so don't feel bad. But I mean, you know, but he's like the singer. You know? He's like,
yeah. You gotta watch that. That's a knock. They usually expect that from the drummer, because that's why they keep it. That's why they keep behind all that furniture.
Yeah.
When you see the plexiglass guard, there's a that's
yeah.
Let me tell you something, man. I've had the plexiglass foisted on me in a number of occasions. The most insulting one of my other gigs that I've held on for a long time. You probably know the comedic actor Dennis Leary, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm his musical director, and I've known Dennis since he was 18. And in that band, I'm the drummer as well. He lets me lead a 10-piece band because, like as I like to say, when I'm spending other people's money, I can afford to hire the best. So
you have an in-depth knowledge of the song "Asshole." I'm
on that song. I'm on that song. I'm the guy doing all the orchestrations and the explosions. So
just one of the assholes. You know, there's a whole group of them.
that video, by the way, voted funniest video in the history of MTV.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You know, and Mike will get this. I always liked Hawaiian Sophie better. Do you remember that rap record?
No, Hawaiian
Sophie.
Oh.
Yeah, it had like a Hawaiian Steel Breakdown. It was like a one-hit wonder rap record. The video was and also Biz Markie, Just a Friend.
Yeah.
That to me is you can't do better. You can't do better than Just a Friend if you're just aiming for dumb laughs.
Yeah.
But anyway, we do an annual gig up in Boston where we play Boston Garden, do a big comedy show, and it sells it out, and we raise all this money. I mean, millions and millions and millions of dollars for kids with cancer. So with the Cam Neely Foundation, Cam, president of the Bruins, I got to say all this. So anyway, they started putting plexiglass in front of me. I'm at Boston Garden. Apparently, that's how loud I drum.
Ooh.
And
he hits pretty hard. He hits pretty hard.
He does it. Man, you know, I I plied my craft. I learned my craft playing Jersey bar gigs, 3 sets a night, just looking at people shuffle around the dance floor. And Eddie will tell you this as a drummer, like you're coming up and you're playing these gigs and you're kind of learning like what a drummer actually does in a band. But, you know, all you're seeing is people's behinds because everybody's standing in front of you, the other fellas in the band. So, and they're not really turning around at you to go, hey, dude, get down. You know, I mean, it's just like they're up there doing their show, right?
Yeah.
So you start watching the audience. Eddie, tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
And all of a sudden, like, you start saying, like, hey, man, if I switch this beat up, I can make everybody move different. And then, like, if I break it down and, like, get a little bit more on the top, everybody's ass is going to get low.
Yeah.
And the guitar guys aren't doing that. You know, the bass player might be assisting me in doing that, but I'm like a 17-year-old kid, and all of a sudden I realize I can boss 100 people around just by like
changing the groove, just by changing the groove.
And man, that is when it's just a lesson in music. And the other thing that I think Eddie will agree with me with is, you know, as gigs got better, and you know, Eddie and I had both been a little bit on an A-list circuit. Him in LA, me in New York. So Eddie was like cream of the crop, R&B.
Velvet DeVoe.
Yeah, Velvet, Johnny, Sheila,
Shanice, Johnny Gill. You know, he's really in that world. I was holding down gigs with Rick Derringer, Edgar Winter, Ozzy Osbourne. Like those were the guys. And also doing a lot of New York sessions. I was the featured keyboard player on the first Suzanne Vega record. You know, it was just like constant work. And so we had both played arenas, you know, but collectively, you know, now we're starting off in this band and, you know, we're taking these guys that have not had that experience into there. And man, you learn so much. If you're fortunate enough to get to play what they call the big rooms, you know, which are like theaters above 5,000 or arenas or stadiums, and you got your show down enough that you can listen to what's going on, like, you know, just like how what you're doing is rolling out over that audience, man, that is the final chisel in like making you kind of like a rock solid performer on that level. And if you listen to records from the early 70s, like, you know, that was a time when guys would make a record and then 2 weeks later they're playing stadiums, you know. It's like, you know, bands like Foghat, Humble Pie, you know, bands like that, you know, just like all of it, you know, even Sabbath, you know, just like Come to America, bang, you're in arenas. You're not playing theaters. They played the Fillmore, you know, and then they're playing arenas. So, and there's, you know, I play with all different kinds of musicians here, but the guys that I get on gigs with who have played the big rooms, there's a zen to the way that they play. Like they're playing a lot, but they ain't playing nothing, you know? And I know that Eddie knows this vibe as well, you know, just like, but you get that experience. And that really, like, especially after we put out Walking Off the Buzz, where we really got, you know, there weren't a whole lot of bands back there that got a second life. And we saw a lot of bands that did not deserve this. To really coast for years and years and years and years and years on one effing song. I mean, you know, we're over there tap dancing, you know, trying to like, I mean, I used to tell the fellas, and a couple of them would get a little angry at me when I told them this, when I would say, hey, look, y'all can consider yourselves the most wonderful troubadours in the world, and we're just coming up with this stuff like we're just blessed to be writing these hit records. But let me explain to you what your job actually is. Said at 8 o'clock in the morning, the radio station's going to play a 2-minute commercial block. And then there's going to be 4 minutes of dead space. And then they're going to come back and they're going to play 4 more minutes of commercials. Your job is to come up with something better than the guy that Christina Aguilera hired to fill up that 4 minutes. And if you don't, then we've completely messed up. So don't kid yourselves about what our job is. You've just got to come up with a better 4 minutes than Christina Aguilera. Can you do it?
Yeah, right. Well, do you have enough money to do it? That's the
Well,
thing.
that's the whole premise of radio. I mean, that's the whole premise of radio, is to sell advertising. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
But
the
that was the
rock
thing
stars
that
are
we
really
were,
just the advertisement for the advertisement. That's all it is.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
but that
yeah.
was the thing that we were really proud of, is that we launched this factory out of a cinder block room in Cincinnati, Ohio, on the banks of the Ohio River. I mean, I'm not being romantic. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and some outside producers tried to muck around with things on the first album. We got most of it back. There was some stuff that could not be repaired.
Oh.
And you also pick and choose your battles with the record company.
Mhm.
So, you know, the stuff that could not be repaired, at the end of the day, all came out in the wash. But after that, I mean, the next two albums, that's us. That's just us, you know, just literally trying to do that, come up with the better 4 minutes. We knew how it worked out, but, you know, we were the kind of band, you know, we were adopted by pop radio and we accepted that, you know. So there were radio festivals we'd show up to. We were the only band with a backline, and we're on a bill with 12 other acts, and they're all track acts. You know, they're all boy or girl bands, and then there's us.
Well, we
you
did
know,
the
and
country thing for a minute too. Remember when we did the CMT thing?
Yeah.
We did we were playing in Walmart parking lots. They would set up these huge stages in Walmart parking lots across the country. And
Really?
I forgot, we were somewhere and we're on stage, and you could look, it was really flat. I don't know if it was Texas, where it was. And
It
there
was Texas. You don't see this anywhere else but
It was a
Texas.
tornado. We were like, wow, there's a tornado
You
over here.
could see it in the sky while you were on stage.
It was just going across the thing, like, and we were just jamming stuff.
The tornado was far stage right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was behind the monitor guy. I think it wanted more wedge. But
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
I want to say that, like, I Want to Be There was, I mean, we did the Crook and Chase show, and that was Nashville.
Yeah.
I kept getting royalty checks for it. But wasn't I Want to Be There, even though that was a pop radio hit, didn't that cross over into country music? I mean,
crossed over a little bit in the
it was
country.
like in the top 10 of CMT for a while, wasn't it? Or
Well, that's
something?
how we got on that tour. That's how we got on the
Yeah.
CMT tour.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because that was all, that was set up through the distribution. And actually that was the tour. Okay, I'll tell you what, you know, all of these people are dead, or at least I wish they were the richest people in the cemetery. But let me tell you a little story. Let me tell you a little story about how wonderful the record business was, Naomi.
Here we go.
Because I know you think, because I know you all think it's just like peaches and cream, and like everybody got 4 girls to carry them around in a throne. But actually, it wasn't really quite like that. And let me tell you a little story about that tour. So we set up this tour right when our second album got released by our original label, EMI, otherwise known as Every Mistake Imaginable. And
There it is. I do it.
And the way this was going to work out, we went down and did a week in Texas, playing these Walmart parking lots with a portable stage. And it was a big deal because we were the first pop rock band to ever get to do this. Before this, it was all country.
Yeah,
So
and
we broke-
biracial. And biracial.
Yeah. Yeah. So we broke a couple
Or
of
interracial.
barriers
Sorry, not
doing-
biracial, interracial.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. But, you know, we broke a couple of barriers just by the fact that this thing was even planned, right? So we go down and we do Texas the first week, because it literally takes you a week to do all of Texas.
Yeah.
And then we drive back up to Cincinnati and we play by the river, debuting our second album to like 50,000 people showed up at that gig. More, you know, it was pandemonium. And then we turn the bus right around and we drive back down south. And now we're going to start in Algiers, Louisiana, which is basically right across the river from New Orleans, and make our way across to, I think, Tallahassee, Florida, play all the Gulf states, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way this was worked out was the bus that we were on was paid for by a record company, American Express card. All right. So that's an important thing for you to know. And we're not carrying around a rented backline. We're carrying around the gear that the record company didn't buy us this gear. We bought this gear with our money.
All right,
Also,
watch your mic. Don't hit your mic.
Oh, sorry. So again, so something to remember. All right. So now we get down, and all these gigs were in the afternoon, all daylight, nothing romantic, nothing at night. They're all daylight gigs. So we're down in Algiers, Louisiana. I got a lot of pals down there in New Orleans. A lot of guys came out to see me. And this is back in the day, just to show you what year, this is 1997. Here's a time capsule for you. We had the band cell phone.
Yes. Was it a brick or was it a razor flip?
Yeah, but I'm telling you, it was one. We had the band cell phone. There were no other cell phones. There was just the band cell phone.
Yeah.
And I was the last guy, we're using the bus as the dressing room out there in the parking lot in Algiers, and I'm the last guy off the bus. And as I'm leaving, phone's ringing. So I look, and it's our management. I flip it down, and our manager at the time says, "Don't tell any of the guys this until after you're off the stage, but your record label just went out of business. The parent company in England has put EMI US out of business, and right now you don't have a record label." And I said, "Well, that's really interesting since our album's been out a week or less than a week, but I'll let the fellas know after we play." So we play the whole gig, right? And we get back on the bus, and I said, "Guys, this is what's going on." I told them, and then we got back on the phone and got a little bit more. Now, at that, we were assured, and they would have been idiots not to, that we were either going to end up, there were two other labels owned by that company, which were Virgin or Capitol. And we were told we were going to end up on one of those labels. We ended up on Capitol. That's a whole other ride. But anyway, all right. But we still have to do this tour because this is for Anderson distribution, and we can't make these gentlemen angry at us. But here was the thing. When the label folded, they closed all the corporate accounts. So all of a sudden, the bus driver's boss calls us up and says, "Well, what the hell, man? I can't draw on this credit card anymore." And we said, "Well, that's fine. We're going to finish the tour, and we'll get them to pay you through another credit card, like a Visa or a MasterCard." "Well, I don't accept those."
Really?
So we got a problem. So here's what happened. And I can't believe that people agreed to do this, because I flew back to New York after the Tallahassee gig, and I didn't realize this was going to happen. That guy, the guy who was the boss of that bus company, decided that what he was going to keep for collateral was our gear. So after they played Tallahassee, he drove the guys back to Cincinnati, but he padlocked the trailer, and he wouldn't let any of the gear off it, wouldn't let the crew take the gear off it, and said he was going to call the cops if they destroyed the lock. And he drove that bus back down to Nashville, and our gear sat in a hot parking lot in that trailer for a week until we could get somebody at a record company to pay this bus company off. And then we had to send one of our crew guys all the way down to Nashville from Cincinnati in a van to load up all of our gear and drive it back to Cincinnati.
Now he says he's going to call the cops, but is it even legal for him to do that?
Well, we didn't want that kind of trouble because there was just too much riding on this tour. And we didn't, listen, the political games.
That's what I was going to say. Politics, man.
The political games you had to play. So, the other thing that we're thinking about is, hey, look, we're about to get thrown at Capitol Records. Capitol Records at that time, for all intents and purposes, was an alternative label. All right. They had the Dandy Warhols.
Yeah,
they
Marcy
had the
Playground.
Foo Fighters.
Marcy Playground.
Marcy Playground. And they had a little band called Radiohead. And they didn't have no pop. Now, they were thrilled. And I'm not kidding. Like, their radio promotion people were ecstatic. And I got to say that kind of in the shadows, they kept two songs off that second album just bubbling, like constant airplay. And especially I Want to Be There. You know, it's interesting. I Want to Be There and Let Me Be the One were really Jeff's songs. And those songs, I think, were our most, they weren't our biggest hits, but a lot of radio guys said they were the most recurrent hits because of the grooves in them. But Jeff's songs really kept us on the radio, even when we were not producing, you know, like between records and stuff. And they really did right for, but that's just a little story about how the record business worked. And yeah, we just didn't want to make any waves because now we're coming in. And here's the thing, when you're foisted on a label, you're nobody's pet project. You know, nobody there has any pride in you. They didn't develop.
We were the stepchild.
You're the redheaded stepchild left on the porch where maybe they can ring you out and a couple of dollar bills will come out, you know? And here was the thing, because we're on this alternative label, and especially like the Foos and Radiohead are just kicking it, right? So, you know, it gets to be like these big radio promotion seasons, like like Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day. And then like you get into the Christmas season where every radio station, pop radio station in America is putting like their Christmas jam, you know?
Yeah.
We played in December of 1997. We were bounced around the country from coast to coast, playing all of these Christmas jams that they wanted the Foo Fighters or Radiohead to show up. These guys weren't going to show up for a pop station, play for these guys. And we went and played for them. But here's how the record business works, Naomi. They wanted radio. They wanted Radiohead. And Capitol Records said, well, will you keep playing this crossover Radiohead record if we send you Blessed Union of Souls? Yes. Do you think the money that they spent on those plane tickets got charged to Radiohead? Because I found out how much they spent in plane tickets in 1997 dollars, and it was $60,000 just for the month of December.
Yeah.
And guess who's still paying for that?
You.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is how the record company worked. You know, this is how record companies worked.
Yeah.
Hey, what can
Give you
do?
everything on a platter, and then you get the bill.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
it's,
exactly.
it's literally the worst bank loan you ever signed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
that all the time.
yeah, it's literally like you sign a bank loan to buy a house, and instead the bank tells you how to build the house and what color it needs to be,
Yeah.
and who's not allowed to come in.
Yeah. And even though right now everybody says, you know, it's the worst thing in the world. You don't want to sign a label. You don't have to sign a label because all these things are available to you now. You got your social media, you got your this, you
It's
know,
a mess now, man.
you know, you got Sound Exchange, you got, you know, Songtrust, you got blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you don't have the money the labels have, nor do you have the connections these guys have. And politically speaking, you know, you don't have enough money to get in that political arena that the labels have. So,
yeah. I mean,
you better write a hit. Yeah, you better write a hit that people can grab onto. And because this is the thing, the new record labels are the TikTok influencers anyway, you know, so you got to get an influencer.
And the labels will admit, labels will admit that to you.
Yeah.
Just the one good thing that record companies could do, and nobody else has been able to do this. Everybody in the world would know who you are for 1 week.
Yeah.
And the question would be, hey, jerk, what are you gonna do with a week?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, but you know, when I worked with Ozzy, and listen, I gotta say, we had ups and downs with our management, but they did keep us on the radio. And the one lesson I learned from being in Ozzy's band, because I really got on great with Sharon. I just thought, you know, and she really is the powerhouse that she comes on to be. But, you know, we'd be talking about, you know, and she knew I was really in the history of these bands, and especially like all the Sabbath era things. I'm very influenced with that coming up as a kid. And, you know, and I would say like, hey, but whatever happened to like so-and-so, whatever happened to Savoy Brown, you know, whatever happened to, you know, whatever band it is. And she'd go, Charlie, there's only 3 things you need to know when you ask a question like that. Whatever happened to a band? And the answer is always management, management, management. You know, and it's really,
That's true.
Yeah.
And I got to, our guys were really adept at keeping us on the radio. In a certain way, it was kind of our undoing because they were always smarter than the radio promotion guys. And their big mistake was they kept telling the radio promotion guys they were smarter.
Yeah. Don't mess with somebody's ego when they're spinning the record.
As Eddie Hedges can preach to you, pride goeth before a fall.
Goeth before the fall. That's right. Amen, brother.
Oh, these are the kind of experiences that I'm just like, I'm doing this for, to hear these stories. Like, wow, it's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
We got other stories too, but I can't tell them to you here.
She don't care about my car. She don't care about my money. That's real good, cause I don't got a lot to spend. And if I did, it wouldn't mean nothing. She likes me for me, not because I look like Tyson Beckford with the charm of Robert Redford oozing out my ears. What she sees are my faults and indecisions, my insecure conditions, and the tears upon the pillow that I shed. She don't care about my big screen, my collection of DVDs. After these messages, we'll be right back.
Dope Nostalgia listeners, I love you and I thank you so much for being a part of this show and its success over the last 2 years. We have what's called Patreon for those who want to support the show financially. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a subscriber and get bonus content, early podcast release, all kinds of cool behind-the-scenes stuff, and more. There's different tiers of membership starting at only $1 a month. And we even have some special merch for you guys who are in it for the long run. So please join our Patreon. It's at www.patreon.com/dope nostalgia.
Love music? Who doesn't? Who and what were the albums and artists that really turned you onto music?
The ones that made you really stop and listen.
The ones that shaped your tastes and opened your horizons. That's what we want to talk about.
Dig deep into your vinyl, CDs, or even stream away.
Let's listen and learn all about what made you fall in love with music in the first place.
This is Learning to Listen.
So good.
Okay, interesting take. Could you read it like a human being, or?
That's exactly the way a human would read that.
Take two.
The ones that, I don't know, shaped your tastes and opened your horizons, That's what we want to talk about,
You know?
Dig deep into your vinyl, CDs, or even stream away.
Join Quinn, Charlie, and myself, Naomi, for a brand new album every single week on L2L, Learning to Listen. Found everywhere great podcasts are served.
It's Magic Summer from Coca-Cola Classic.
You never know wherever you go, you might find magic in a Coca-Cola Classic.
The icy cold, real cola taste of Coca-Cola Classic. It'll make your summer magic.
There's magic in the real thing. Can't beat the real thing.
Hey, listen, we can't tell you the story about what was the Germany gig where we started off. They took us out. Now we have to do a gig the next day. The day before, they take us out to these Sotheby auctions, right? So we're doing these Sotheby auctions, but we start early in the morning and they break out the champagne. Now, we're drinking champagne from like 8 o'clock in the morning until they take it to some bar. All I remember was we're in this bar now, and I'm not much of a drinker, so I'm a really, really lightweight, but we've been sipping all day.
Mm-hmm.
I go, and we were with, was it Collective Soul? Who was the guys we were with?
Collective Soul, and there was an alternative band. They were from New York. I hated them, and I hated the people in them, but I forgot the name of the band. And they were just the darlings of Darlingville.
Yeah. But the Collective Soul. So we end up in the club together in this bar, and drinking and partying and drinking. And the next thing I know, I'm out on the bench. I had to get outside and get some air because I'm like, okay, I have never, when the first time you get trashed and you're like, okay, I wasn't trying to get here. I just went a little buzz, and now you can't control nothing and you're throwing up all over. So I'm sitting out on this bench and we're in the Black Forest in Germany somewhere. Next thing I remember, I'm in my hotel room. I woke up the next morning in the hotel room. Don't know how I got there. And it was one of those rooms where it's like a tri-level hotel room.
That hotel was nuts.
It was crazy.
Got my room in there. I don't even know how I got around it.
But there was a trail of throw up from my front door all the way up the steps, around, all right up to the bed. I'm like,
it was the Hansel and Gretel principle. Eddie needed to find his way back.
I found my way back to the front door, follow the puke. But it was it, man. But there were these, and the crazy thing is, I watched the video of the show that we did the next day, and you could just see me sweating liquor. I was just playing. I was dying.
Yeah, we
was dying.
Were playing this live television show. It was in Baden-Baden, Germany.
Yeah.
And we did Jimi Hendrix, Them Changes.
Oh.
In the middle, we did a drum solo. And I walk behind Eddie, and all I can smell is wine.
Yeah.
After the show, I'm like, what was it? He goes, that's me.
Is this
it was
coming
sweating.
out of me?
I guess you probably didn't have much of a chance to get food in you either.
Oh,
No,
man.
not much. Hey, you know what? We did, what was it, like 5 countries in 6 days or something like that?
Yeah, that was the second promo tour. Wow.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
They did give us a little bit of time off in Amsterdam, though, so that was kind of cool. Okay, you got a couple days off in Amsterdam.
But Naomi, when we went over, took the whole band over we did this really short German tour, and it was mostly promo, which we were doing a lot of television. New York City is filled with guys who have had gigs where they go over and do promotion in Germany. And I've asked all these heavy hitters here, what's the strangest experience you've had professionally? And we all agree it's doing German television, especially German morning television.
They have some freaky shows.
Yes.
It's literally like you're on acid. Nothing makes, I mean, they'll have an oompa band, and then they'll have like some little kids like dancing to like a hard techno track, and then like a dog act with some magic, and then blessed you your souls, and then like it will be like another thing, and it's just, and you're just.
But you know what thing that got me the most was when you're sitting in a hotel room. I'm in the room and I'm watching TV and I'm watching these commercials. There's a shampoo commercial. This woman's in the shower. Yeah. And you see this woman, it's a shampoo, and she's in this butt naked in the shower. I'm like, can they show that on TV? I'm like, I want to get that shampoo. Come on, really?
Yeah, exactly. That was going to be my point. Eddie, you know what happened after that? They sold a lot of shampoo.
They sold a lot.
Europeans are very open to nudity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, they are. We've been.
I've been in these off years. I've been very blessed to go over to Europe a lot with. He's now retired, but a guy named Garland Jeffries, who you might remember, as his keyboard player for years and years and years. And also my band I had called the Liza Colby Sound, and we were going over there and playing. And it's fantastic over there, man. Yeah. It's just, and I gotta say, the other country, because Eddie and I were there a lot in the late 80s, and then I wasn't there until like 2016, maybe 17. And then I was there 2 years in a row. Japan is like a completely new country now. It's just completely different. And what is different about Japan, Naomi, I think you'll like this, is that women have kind of taken it over, which was only an improvement, The first time I went over there in the late 80s, if I had even suggested that maybe a woman should be working front of house or running monitors, I would have been laughed out of the theater. And these last 2 times I've been back, like just everywhere. It's just, it's gotten the whole It's such a fresh new thing. And man, I'm constantly waffling between what is the cooler place, Berlin or Tokyo. It's like both of those cities are just, and very much for different reasons, and both in their own very different ways. But there's parts of Tokyo that are just like, you just can't believe it.
That's my number one bucket list trip is Tokyo for me.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
You gotta go. And you know, when you go there, you know, you're going to be expecting everybody to be like this big technological thing and, you know, trains coming out of buildings and, you know, just like completely insane stuff. But one of the greatest things in Tokyo, man, you got to go to the parks. Yeah. The parks are insane. And it's like, they know the park is in Tokyo. So the whole point of the park is, let's forget that you're in Tokyo. You know, it's not like Central Park where you're constantly surrounded by like all these gargantuan buildings, which is a cool effect. You know, don't get me wrong. I love my city, but the whole point of the parks in Tokyo is like, okay, now you're in the park. You're not in the city anymore. You're in the park. You know, and oh man, it's just awesome. And both those cities, they're hard to find a bad meal in.
Well, I tell you where it's hard to find a bad meal is Italy.
Oh,
everything in Italy tastes great.
We went to Italy. Yeah,
everything tastes great. I don't care where you go to eat. It all just tastes great. I don't understand. It's the soil or something. I don't know what it is, but it's great.
We did when we went to Italy, we did some of the strangest promotion things we ever did on television. And Tony wasn't with us on the first trip. Oh, yeah. So, well, you know, because record companies don't want to spend money. So, and I got to say, they kind of spent money on us on these trips. Like everybody had their own room, you know, again, it was
go to
them trying to put us, yeah. So we had to go play in Parma at a castle. And we're playing, I believe, and we had to lip sync it. And these European record guys didn't appreciate, I mean, look, not that I need my butt kissed, but, you know, but they didn't appreciate that was kind of an insult to ask American band guys to do. You know, it's one thing if you're playing bandstand, that's Dick effing Clark, you know, but I mean, really, you know,
That's very commonplace on shows like Top of the Pops and
we played live on Top of the Pops. Harumph.
Yeah. Pulled that off. Good.
But and Celine was there though, and Celine, but she did a track.
Yeah, but she sang live. We could hear her voice louder from where she was standing than through the PA on Top of the Pops.
Oh, I went up to her and talked to her, you know, because I'm a huge Celine fan. I just, you know, so I go, you know, I said, wow, Celine, I'm finally going to go and talk to her. I'm going to say, hey, you know, I really love your voice. You're such a talent. And I go, hi, Celine, you know, I'm Eddie. I'm really, you know, it's great to meet you. I really love your voice. You're such a talent. She goes, and she writes down, thank you. She doesn't say a word. She won't talk, you know, and then she walks off. I was like, well, okay, then.
Yeah. I think it's, I'm not sure how many, if it's a full day or two, or a certain amount of hours where she will not use her voice before a show.
Yeah, she wouldn't.
And the thing was, her dressing room, of course, here were the acts that were on the show that night. So it was us, it was Celine, it was Montel Jordan. This is how we do.
Yeah, wasn't Charles and Eddie on the show too, though? Would I lie to you, honey? Would I lie? And Supergrass. Now, Supergrass, one of my favorite bands of all time from England, and those lads know how to play the rock. Yeah, man. Yeah. So hey, we stayed in the same hotel in Amsterdam. We all had time off.
That's right. Yeah. So they put our two dressing rooms were next to each other, and Celine's dressing room is across the hall. So, you know, rock bands are rock bands. So it's like, you know, two guys start talking outside the room, and then pretty much like all the band guys are just out in the hallway, and we're all just having a nice chat, you know, about whatever the hell we're talking about. Celine comes out of her dressing room and sees all these rock guys there and just kind of hugs the wall. Goes down the hall. Like she doesn't even want to breathe the same air as us, you know? But yeah, we got our way on that show because we were just playing I Believe, acoustic guitar, digital piano,
and a shaker,
and singing live, and the shaker, and we just played it live. But on this Italian show, they insisted that we lip sync. And the label guys from Italy, they were the nicest guys in the world. And one of the guys, I think he'd actually gone to the University of Indiana, like spoke perfect English, you know, and sorry, things keep popping up on my phone here. And so I'm talking to the guy and I go, you know, I understand there's technological considerations, you know, and I also, it was raining, so we had to do it in the rain. So it's raining on this piano that I'm piano syncing on, you know, and I go, but you know, it's, you know, we're American musicians. We want to come here and play, and we'd rather play this live. And the guy looks at me and he goes, oh, but lip syncing is so much better. And I go, well, why do you say that? And he goes, well, what if you made a mistake? I said, who else are you signing, dude?
Yeah.
Oh,
so, and then you go, that's the magic of it.
You find all the beauty in the mistakes. Are you kidding?
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, not only that, I said, dude, I learned my craft in a state called New Jersey. There's not going to be any damn mistakes. There's no mistakes here.
We've done this
That's
before.
true too.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a great gig,
How
though,
would
man.
it be any fun for a musician at all to just be doing the lip sync, the fake plug-in like that? There's no fun in that.
Oh, here's what was worse. And this was on the second promo trip. So we're getting bounced around Europe like a Super Bowl. I mean, we're literally like, you know, when you see kids in the mall getting dragged by their moms and they don't know where they are and their coats dragging behind them and they're just like in this sort of like K-hole. That was pretty much us on the second, because we had done something at the Letterman Theater and just got picked up in limos. Kennedy Airport. Okay, you're in Europe. What? Okay, yeah, we're back in Europe.
Yeah.
So they fly us to Spain. All right. And that's the first time I'd been in Spain. And just for a little history, you know, Spain had really been off limits to the United States while this guy Franco was running it. So it was very recently open to, like, you know, sort of the West and what the West was doing.
Or the whole culture.
And the people there are beautiful. The country's beautiful. I've spent a lot of time there in the last 10 years, and it's the best rock fans in the world in Spain right now. Just really appreciating the art form, the whole thing. They're just down with it, you know. But so we go there, and we'll do this television show. First of all, the audience is literally the prettiest girl I've ever seen, except for the one standing next to her, except for the one standing next to her, except it was like a room full of like you just didn't know where to look. And when you signed, we were set up on this big island, like it was up in the air, and we're set up on this thing in a circle. And they were coming up to us with like little booklets to sign, and you'd sign them. And these chicks were up front, man. The Spanish girls don't mess around. They grab your head. I go, okay. Well, the first time that I was just like, oh, sister, what? Whoa, you know? And then just bang, bang, bang. It's just like, so, you know, that's before. So now we're playing. So, you know, they've given us a nice little setup to do I Believe, do our lip syncing, I Believe. And I've got one keyboard. We get, and Eddie, I don't know if you remember this, we get halfway through it, stop audio.
Yeah.
I see all the technical guys are talking. Guys come up to me and like, well, we have a problem. Well, what's the problem? Well, you know, this, the piano, right? Yeah. Goes, also the strings. I go, well, that's an orchestra, man. That's Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, which is who it is, by the way. Play on that, you know, that's an orchestra. You go, you have to play the string part. I go, what? what are you talking about? We're getting you another keyboard. And they had this argument with me. They said, now, it was hard enough to play the piano part in that song. And now they want me to play. Those other three guys are crying. They're laughing so hard. And I just look like I'm failing my SATs all over again. It's just like, it's the dumbest thing. And this is happening to me in a room full of 100 of the most beautiful women. And it's,
Of course.
And I had to, my left hand just looked like I was slapping the keyboard with an octopus, it was the worst. Anyway, that's where you take your chances when you do international promo.
Yeah, that's you take your chances when you do promo.
Yeah.
They just go here, go there, do this, do that. You're like, okay, because you kind of have.
And my favorite movie in the world is the Beatles movie, A Hard Day's Night. And not just because it's about the Beatles, but I started to notice this, with the good things that were happening in my life before the Blessed Union. But with the Blessed Union, the spookiest thing about A Hard Day's Night, because, you watch that movie, and that movie is brilliant. You watch that movie, but it was so exciting, and it was the beginning of the 60s, and everybody was so full of hope. And you're watching the Beatles be rock stars in England. And that whole movie was completely filmed before they even came over and played Sullivan. That movie was already in the can. So I'm sorry, I'm a big historian about this. So, but you look at all the stuff that happens in the movie, and even the stuff that's played for laughs, and you go, well, that's great. The Beatles made a really funny, entertaining movie about their make-believe rock star lives. Then you get in the Blessed Union, and everything in that movie starts to come true. And Paul's grandfather in the movie has the best line about doing that for a job, because he's come along for the ride with the guys thinking it's going to be this great vacation of just like sun and fun and women and lollygagging around. And he's very disappointed and complains to the guys that so far I've been in a train and a room and a car and a room and a room and a room. And that's it. That's what it's like. That's just, and everything else in that movie, all the goofy stuff that happened, a version of that we experienced.
Well, the best too is you tell somebody, yeah, man, I've been around the world a couple times. Did you enjoy it? Well, it was all through a window.
Yeah.
That's about it.
You don't get to really take it in. No, especially when you're in like the height of what's happening with the music on the radio and everything's going and going and going. Right.
But it was
the first time. The first
that's
time
why they gave
Japan,
us 3 days off in Amsterdam.
Yes, a great place to have 3 days off.
One of the last European tours I did with Garland, we did a little bit of England and then went into Europe, or a long haul tour. The way it worked out, the band had 3 days off in Glasgow.
Wow.
Wow. I don't know if you know of a single malt called Ardbeg.
Oh
no.
But I'll tell you what, it makes the haggis go down real nice.
Makes the what go down?
The haggis.
Oh, you don't know what haggis is?
No.
That's Scottish soul food, my friend.
Man.
It's basically all the stuff that you don't use from the animal you butchered.
From the
tied up, I believe, in its stomach, which is then cooked forever and then presented. Now, I didn't have it in the stomach. I had it more as like, it was almost like haggis burritos, kind of. Yeah. But they would have these things in bars and tell you hit the spot after 2 Ardbegs because I'm a lightweight.
Didn't you get sick on that during the Mike Mechanics tour or something?
I didn't get
that was somebody got sick on Indian food.
Yeah, but that wasn't me. I got sick on sushi in California. You had to come in and experience.
Oh man, the whole hallway smelled like sushi.
Poor Tony. Poor Tony was my go-to guy, man.
Oh, yeah, I get a phone call. Charlie was trying to get me to go out and do sushi the night before. I get a phone call the next morning, and all I get was, "Man, if you ever owed me anything, you got to do me a favor and get me some saltines and a Gatorade."
Yeah, I was in bad shape
wherever I could find. And I had to fly to Charlie's room. I go to Charlie's room. I like 5 feet from the door. All I can smell is like this foul odor that smelled like fish. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But the
was bad.
bad thing was we had 2 shows that day.
Day?
No, not 2 shows. We had to fly back to Dayton and play a show outside Dayton, like in the middle of nowhere.
I thought we had like 2 shows there.
No, because believe me, I remember. Every foot of that trip driving back from wherever we were, because we were like in SoCal, and we had to drive all the way back to LAX to get on that flight back.
The 2 shows, that was the day. Remember, we took the bus up from somewhere, Kentucky, went up to Pennsylvania or something, did a show. We hit a Lear and shot over to, was it Oklahoma or somewhere, and then we got back on the jet and shot back over to. It was insane.
We took a jet out of Ohio, flew to Oklahoma. We were one of the first bands on a radio fest there, and then flew back to Central PA and played in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And our little fans, the Jersey Girls, showed up there.
Oh yeah.
And but the pilots, the first time we were on first of all, I'm here to tell you, I don't care if I come off like an elite rock star snob. Private jets are where it's at.
What about the one where we're sitting on the runway in Canada? We're getting ready to go do.
That was a prop.
Kathy Lee. I know we're going to do Regis and Kathy Lee, and we're sitting there. We're all squeezed in. We had to take one of the seats out of the plane just to make enough room, and we're sitting there. Pilot doesn't show up. Wasn't it like a training pilot or something? It's raining outside.
Oh,
And I'm sitting on this box. I'm like, what is this box? And I open it up. It's the bar. So I'm pouring drinks. I start pouring drinks. I'm like, if we're gonna go this.
That's how we're going down.
I was like, man, we're going to fly to New York so we can get there in time to do the show.
That was a rotten ride. To get to
it's like the wings were flapping.
Regis and Kathy were really good to us, and it was well worth it. And they sold a lot of records for us. They were really wonderful to us. We played on that show a lot.
Nice.
But I remember when we took our first Learjet, our first private jet, Elliot was not having it. Like, we almost had to drag him onto the jet.
Wasn't having much of anything though.
Yeah. And the thing was, like, on paper, when you spec'd out these jets, they were literally 4 times safer than any commercial jetliner you could ever get on. Mm-hmm. Like, they had to be. And the way they were serviced, just the regulations around them. I mean, it's a work of art.
I think it's the turbulence that really scares people, because it's going to be a bit louder, I believe, right?
But you don't get that on private
jets. You know why? Because private jets, they fly so much higher.
They fly higher than commercial airlines. You don't get any turbulence at all.
Really?
We flew over this insane thunderstorm that was like a psychedelic light show on the way out to Oklahoma, and it was at night, and we're just like,
we're looking down at the lightning. I was like, wow,
just like, it felt like we were suspended in air. But I hit the pilots. The pilots, obviously saw that like Elliot was just flipping out, right? So we're at this tiny little regional airport where we're taking off from, and in a Learjet's like one of the smallest private jets you can take. It was historically, it was actually, the design was originally designed to be a jet fighter for the Swedish Air Force. I think you guys didn't know that. But anyway, so it's very tight in there. And so we start, we get out to the end of the runway, they fire up the jets, and we start going. And about 5 seconds in, like as soon as because in a plane that small, those jets, I mean, you're going 1,000 miles an hour right away on the ground.
It's like the dotted line it's like the dotted line that's on the runway turns into one line.
It's not like you're even in a 737. You're on those little wheels. So I mean, the window you're looking out, you're closer to the ground than if you were standing up, And so everything's going by that fast. And as that happens, one pilot turns to the other and says, "Uh-oh."
No.
I started dying.
I was
thought
cracking
Elliot
up.
I thought Elliot was going to open the hatch, man. I
Like-
thought he was going to dive out. I just said,
I know.
I want these guys to be our pilots every time we can afford to do this.
They were funny, man. They were hilarious.
Yeah.
But you know what? I did remember we were so high. You could, right? We're so high. We were so high up in the air. You could kind of see the curvature of the Earth.
It was crazy.
It was the
It's like-
craziest thing. I was like, man, we're like in inner space, almost out of space.
Yeah.
It was the nuttiest thing. I was like,
You're
wow.
in low Earth orbit, basically.
I know. It's like, it's insane.
But you know,
Yeah.
again, and I keep pulling it back to this thing, you know, when stuff like that would happen, when, you know, we would get afforded these gifts and blessings. I mean, I just kept thinking, a bunch of knuckleheads in a cinder block room. You know? I
We
mean,
got to do all that
you
stuff.
know, nobody came in to save us. You know, we did this well enough to get this, you know, and that's always where I was with it, you know. I still am with it, you know.
And you know what the whole thing is? I mean,
and there's still
we've
more
done
to
a lot.
do.
Yeah, you know what? And that's exactly it. We've done a lot. And even through all the changes, you know, I think when it's in your DNA, you're just going to keep doing it anyway. And we're actually blessed that we're all still friends. We're all still buddies. And we can keep doing this until they tell us to stop. You know, like I said, we'll come back and, you know, music changes, you know, but it's funny because it's a wheel. It comes all back around again. I mean, right now, you know, the hot stuff is the 60s again, basically. I mean, the stuff that was hot back then and people just added some stuff to it, and it's always that way. So it's funny for me because, you know, and probably for Charlie too, because, you know, we're producers and we're working with other artists. So, you know, it's funny because they're like, can you do like the new such and such and such? I'm like, well, he's just doing James Brown. Or he's doing like Marvin Gaye, or he's just doing Wilson Pickett, or he's just doing.
This isn't new.
Yeah, you know, it's the same
I'm
thing.
going to pull up for you on Spotify.
I know,
It's the
and of course,
original version.
Yeah, you know, and then you got like, you know, Batiste, he's doing the same thing, and Bruno Mars.
Bruno, I love what he's doing.
He's awesome. He just does it so well. You know.
I mean, he was
finesse
groomed.
because he was like New Jack Swing. Oh my goodness, I miss you.
Yeah, he was so groomed. He was so groomed as a child, you know, in that style of music. He just brought it over. The same thing with Lenny Kravitz did. I mean, the thing is, like, you know, if you keep doing the same thing, it's going to come back around, and then it'll be your turn again, you know. And it just so happens that's what Bruno, Silk Sonic, all them cats, man. They're doing like the Impressions, you know. I mean, they're doing all these old R&B groups, and it's like, you know, and they're using the old synths, the old Junos, and the old, you know, all the old sounds. And it's like, people are like, that's so great. I'm like, yeah, but, you know, we did that, you know, 20 years ago. It's just come back around, you know. But that cat, the thing about Bruno, which I really, really dig about Bruno, is he is an entertainer. Those cats are entertainers. And that's what you miss. That's what I missed when I started going to concerts anymore. I missed the whole entertainment of it. Yeah, I can get into the fact that this cat's a mean guitar player. You know, and the guy's a great singer, but I wasn't being entertained. There was no, you know, talking back with, there was there was just, okay.
Crowd interaction.
Great. Yeah, there was no interaction, you know, and just style on stage. These cats, man, you know, and that's what it used to be, you know. It's gonna come back around though, or wait till the boy band comes back and they're dancing. You know, everybody's BTS again. You know, it's like, you know, why not?
The boy band cycle goes for 5 to 10 years, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
I think it's actually
around.
gotten even more and more current. But
it's coming
actually
back.
though. I was talking with Tony. I gotta say, I really like a lot of K-pop that I hear.
Dude, yeah.
And I pointed something out to Tony. That's, you know, around the time that, you know, around 2000 and a little bit before that, when, especially with the emo bands that came in, the way they started mastering records actually got a name in the audio community, and it was called the death of music. And what they did was, and what they were referring to as the death of music was, if you looked at the waveform, right, of the recording of the single, it looked like an electronic hot dog. Yeah. There were no tapers of dynamics. Everything, it's literally what I call everything's louder than everything else.
They just, they just pushed everything up. Boom.
And it became very, very fashionable around that time to start mastering. Now, the original idea was, well, we want to have the loudest thing on the radio. But the thing is, the radio compressor is going to hit that after the fact and compress. So all you're asking the compressor to do is knock your record in the ass even more. So I don't know how that works out.
There was no dynamic range. There was no, it was just
radio,
a wall of sound.
Sucks everything down. I mean, we go down to like 10 to 12 dB on every record at iHeart.
And and then, even like, a lot of the modern stateside stuff, it's so based on this club sound. I mean, so like, all this modern pop literally sounds like I'm in a club in Ibiza in 1988. It's like all these tracks sound just like that. Like, what are you doing?
Well, because they're all using the same. They're all using the same plugins.
Right, they're all using the same plugins. Yeah, and all the plugins are modeled on what the DJs were doing in Ibiza in 1988.
I know, right?
So,
they had to slap that on the table.
I'm not lying. I'm not lying. So,
I know.
So, but also because a lot of the American music is so bass heavy, it's just like boom.
What I'm digging now. What I'm digging now is, I'm just digging country. Yeah. I'm really digging country music a lot. I mean, first of all, because I like songs.
Real country or pop with fiddles?
No, like some real country.
Do not get me started, Naomi.
Let's not go there.
What's that? What she said? I missed it. What was it?
She said bro country. I said, do not go there. We'll be here all night.
What do you mean? No, hip hop. That's what it was. Hip hop. Remember hip hop?
Hip hop, yeah.
Wow, but no, you know what? I like good songs that I can understand.
Yeah.
Chris Stapleton.
Oh man, I'm digging. I like him. Stapleton, man.
Yeah. I like that sound.
Yeah,
but that's what I was saying about I'm very happy that people write good songs. I'm happy that I was in a band where people wrote good songs. But which is why I was valuable to these guys in the role that I played. I'm always listening to the track. I mean, I'm always just wishing the singer would just shut up. I want to hear what these guys are playing. I really want to hear what these guys are playing. And
it's a musician's curse.
And even though K-pop, of course, is all programming, I mean, that was my entry into the record business, was as a synth programmer in the late 70s when I moved to New York. So this K-pop stuff is such a breath of fresh air to me because it's got dynamics again. It breathes, it's light, it's got that Asian, Asian feng shui thing about it that's just like, we're going to leave space in this stuff.
There's so much.
Too. I mean, I think a lot of the K-pop stuff is super creative. I mean, it's just, as far as it being kind of electronica, but it's kind of pop. Yeah. And I don't know. I like it too. I like it a lot.
I gotta hear more of it. But I that's one thing I've noticed when I was doing my own writing and production was just there's so much to be said in the spaces. Leave the spaces, let the song breathe.
And man, especially now, because it was, we just didn't. I mean, I knew how lucky I had it being as successful as I was in the New York session scene in the 80s. It was a blessing. And I got there because I knew how to operate synthesizers and get people what they wanted out of these boxes right away. But, I'm still in there with a bunch of living guys. And some of these guys were the mofos of life, doing dog food commercials with Will Lee, or Steve Gadd on the drum. It's just crazy, like who you're in the studio with. And, but you were in a room with air. Air was in the room. And not only that, you were recording to magnetic tape and you could smack magnetic tape around. And you can't do that. You cannot do that in a computer. And you hear people talking all the time about producing in the box. Like, they've got all these fancy boxes where you can send the sound out just to send it back in, just so like it lived in the analog world for half a second and then like came back. So you hear about this, but man, if you just stop making more tracks and putting more crap on your damn song, maybe you might hear what it.
You know why? Because back then we were limited in tracks. We were limited in tracks. Now you got as many tracks as your computer can run. It's like,
and not just limited in tracks, but there were certain things that you had to put on certain tracks, especially if you were going to like sync up another tape deck to it. So then the track next to that kind of became useless. Yeah. And then you had to figure out, like, especially if you're doing machine style programming where you're using like 808s with those kick drums, like that kick drum had to live in a center track and nothing could live on either side of it because it was bleeding out with all the boom, 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 you know, I mean, you know, and it was just, and you know, you'd look at these track sheets, you know, and some of these tracks, like the utility tracks, that thing I have 14 things on it.
I know.
You know, like a backing vocal, and then you know, a harmony, the lead track, and then like, you know, this synth blast, and then like a, you know, psycho stab, you know.
And then you'd have to, and then the guy that had to cut all that stuff together, man. That's why there was always so much blow in the studios back then.
Yeah.
He'd be like he'd cut the stuff together, you know, he uses razor, he's cutting this, and he'd come over and chop up some blow, and then he'd come back over there, you know. I'm like, dude, you know,
oh boy,
you know,
yeah. I
walk in at 6 in the morning and say, "Hey, Willie, how you doing?" "I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm almost done." You know,
all kinds of coke residue on those old reels, man.
I quote my pal, the comedian Lenny Clark, when I say, "I did blow for 11 years, only one time, but for 11 years."
For 11 years, for 1 day. That's nuts. That's nuts. Well,
I gotta ask you guys. Now we're going to talk about what's coming up. Like, obviously, we're talking about July 3rd.
Yes. My birthday, by the way. I'm not going to tell you the number. But
Charlie's birthday.
But the fact that I'm standing up for it is worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah. Yeah. But we'll have a walker on the side of the stage.
That's right, man. A Johnny Walker.
Just in case.
Johnny Walker. Yeah, no, a Johnny
Walker.
I need a Johnny Black on the side of the stage.
I know, right?
On the rocks.
We'll all be standing up on one leg like Captain. You know, Captain Morgan.
I go sailing with the captain often.
Oh yeah, all right. We're doing this gig. It's going to be in Mason, Ohio, and you know, we get to go back to Cincinnati, so it's going to be a blast. It's a free show.
Big homecoming show.
Yeah, homecoming thing was us and Smash Mouth. You know, we used to play with those cats before. They're great, and we just get to go home and have a good time. We're going, you know, we put together. You know, like I said, the guys still have, I'm going to send them some changes still that they haven't, you know, I sent you guys, this is the best. This is how we rehearse. Okay. Because we're
guys in 4 different states.
Yeah. We're all in different states. Jeff's in Florida, Tony's in Cincy, Charlie's in New York. I'm out here in LA. So what we do is, you know, we all have home studios and we record our parts. So, and then we put all the stems together. You know, and then everybody's got them, so that if we want to be able to take somebody out to practice, for example, like last night, I think, or night before, I sent everybody, you know, like all the songs kind of in a show. So what I'll do is, you know, I'll also make one without my vocal. So, you know, and I'll play drums and I'll sing, you know, for the biggest problem for me is remembering lyrics. I might write a new song right on the spot. You know what I'm saying? You know, I believe, you know, I'm going down in the Willies and I'm going to get me, you know, who knows? You know, I might make something up. But
listen,
as long as it's grooving, it doesn't matter. As long as it grooves, you know.
Elliot did that a lot. And I got to tell you, I saw Peter Gabriel era Genesis a lot. I was really into that band when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah,
in high school. And Peter Gabriel would like just start doing double talk in some of these things. So they were a wordy band, especially when he was in it.
Dude,
and he just, you know, that was before the days of the teleprompters down in the wedges. You could just look down. Oh yeah, the cat chased the dog. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, well, we used to watch James Brown rehearse, right? And it's when I was with Bell Biv DeVoe. So what we would do, we would take our break, and we'd be a third encore. So we'd be waiting.
That's a rehearsal studio in LA.
It's a rehearsal studio in LA. So we'd be out here and they would say, hey, you know, James is coming. James is going to be here at noon. So we'd finish up our rehearsal because we usually have to start around 10 and we'd take a lunch. And we'd hide behind the curtain and wait for James to show up because our rooms were connected. And we had a doorway. We could go in and wait. So we go in and they would say, James he's like 5 minutes away. 5 minutes away. So we wait. So they would say, James is coming. So I'd run outside, I'd look through and I'd see him come out. There's this big stretch would pull up, right? And keep in mind, the band had been there since 10, his band, 2 drummers, full-blown horn section, 4 female singer dancers, rhythm section, the whole night. They were all there hitting hard, man. They were tight, as we used to say, tight as Dick's hat band, tight. So we would get in there, and so James is coming in, the whole band's on point. They're standing there waiting, because now he's coming. I'm looking out, and you see the limo door opens. This woman gets out, redhead, beautiful. Then this blonde gets out, brunette gets out. He's got the whole plethora, these women get, and they stand and they wait by the door for him. And then you see this cane, brown cowboy boot, light blue tracksuit with a stripe, and a black leather coat, brown cowboy hat with a big thing on the front. This cat, I don't know who dressed him, but it was James Brown. You don't say nothing. So he comes in and he's sitting there. The band's on point. He walks up to the mic.
Sorry.
You gotta love that. He walks up to the mic and he goes, I don't know how they understood it. We're sitting there. He goes, somebody say, get him. Pop, and the band goes, pop, 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 pop. Get on up. I'm like, God, And then he goes, punch time, pat, and they hit the one. And the band is just funky, man. They're and he's grooving, and he's saying stuff, and he's calling these cues. I don't know what he's saying, but the band obviously does, and and he's like, he spins around, he throws the mic out, comes back, the guy took his jacket off for him, and he's doing all this business, and he comes back and he goes, I heard hit it and quit it. That's all I heard. But he goes, somebody did hit it, quit it, pop, 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 pop. He was done. Band's back at point. He stands there. The guy puts his jacket on his shoulders. He left. Now the band had been there for like 2.5, 3 hours. James came in for 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
I was like, man, but never understood a word he said the whole time he was there.
He never turns it off. He
was like, and that was he was rehearsing for the James Brown Living in America special that we did. So we're backstage, and I thought, oh, I'll get to meet James again. I'll get to talk to him. So it's James, Quincy's daughter, and myself. We're standing there, and one of James's wives, I don't know which one, but she was a piece of work. God bless her. So
number 14.
She's big, so I'm watching him talk. I'm trying to listen to James. Still can't understand what he's saying. Apparently, and Quincy's just going, He's just going, yeah, He's just looking at him nodding. I'm like, this cat, man, he had a whole different language. Kind of sounded like my uncle, but he was a bad boy. He was a bad boy. People understood him. It was that international funk language, I guess, that Bootsy's got too. So,
it's funny that would be the special too, because I have a reputation here in New York as a teller of stories.
Yes.
And I'm not going to tell it here because it takes way too long to tell, but I had worked with the late great Dan Hartman. I was in a band that he produced and really got along with him. It's one of the most talented people I've ever met in this business. And this was in the late 80s. And Dan was the bass player in the Edgar Winter group, but and was the guy that wrote and sang Free Ride. But then he had a bunch of disco hits in the 70s and 80s, had a huge gay anthem called Relight My Fire. It's just a gigantic disco hit. And then everybody in the 80s knew him. He played and sang every last note on I Can Dream About You from Streets of Fire. Even though it was a little black kid in the video, it was all Dan Hartman doing all of the voices. So he's a but Dan wrote and produced Living in America. And Dan told me the story of how that almost didn't happen. And I won't bore you with the whole story, also because I would have to do a pretty awful imitation of James Brown, which would then get me canceled all over America. But I will just give you the punchline, which is James saying, Dan, Well, you can't blame me for trying. I'll see you tomorrow, Dan. Click. Anyway, that's the punchline. So I'll just let you, whatever story you could come up with, believe me, it's not as bizarre as the one.
Wait a minute, here's one. James, so he's doing the last record, Living America record. My buddy Rodney Shelton, keyboard player down in North Carolina, he's in the studio with him. And he says he's all nervous. Rodney goes in, he's got his hat on backwards, right? James says, what's your name, sir? He goes, Rodney. What's your last name? He says, Sheldon. He goes, okay, you're Mr. Sheldon. I'm Mr. Brown. He goes, Mr. Sheldon? He goes, yes, sir, Mr. Brown. He said, why don't you turn your hat around the way it's supposed to be worn? He goes, okay. So he spun his hat around. And then he runs through the track. He goes, turn it on that track. So Rodney plays his part. He goes through the song once. And James goes, good, that's it. And Rodney says, Mr. Brown, was that good enough? You want me to do it again? He looked at him, he goes, son, the first time was God. The second time was you effing it up. It's fine. Rodney said, okay, I guess we'll leave it alone. I was like, man, it's a James said. Like, first time's God, second time's you effing it up. That's it.
Which of course is the polar opposite of how Mutt Lange produces.
Oh yeah.
Everybody I've known who's ever been in a studio with Mutt Lange says he's the nicest guy in the world, but when you're standing next to him playing that part and you play it perfectly, and he goes, that's great, do it again.
Yeah.
And you play it again perfectly. That's great, do it again. And play it. That's great. That's why those Def Leppard and Shania Twain records sound like that.
Oh yeah.
Everybody had to play it again.
Yeah.
How many tracks would he put on a song like Armageddon It or Gods of War?
How many vocal tracks do you think are on that? I mean, there's a million.
Yeah, you're doing submixes of submixes, boiling down vocals. So I don't know. I would have heard if he was like strapping up 3 machines together. Usually 2 is the max. And if you tried to sync anything else to that, you were just asking for trouble. I mean, the fact that you could get 2 24-track tape machines to talk to each other, to me, was like landing on the moon, was like getting going down the store to get some eggs,
Yeah. Trying to connect the space station to the.
Well, I understood the coding involved, which this is before digital anything. I understood that it was the marvel of having the motors calibrated so that things were just always going to run like that, Yeah. And occasionally they didn't, and you found out after the fact.
Yeah.
Where you'd be on some multi-tracks, and then like you come in the next day, and all of a sudden all of the tracks on the slave multi-track start to get a little out of tune.
Mm-hmm.
Just not like circus, but just
yeah.
And then it's like, do we recut it? It's there used to be a recording industry in this country. You should have seen it. It was great. I'll tell you about it someday.
I used to record with Kenny, Babyface. Kenny, we used to work in his closet, and he had 2 Porta studios, And what we would do, he would fill up the one, we would track on 3 tracks, we'd bounce down the drum machine on, and then we'd bounce all that over to the other track on the other machine.
That's how you learn.
And we just start bouncing. He did Rock Steady that way for the Whispers, I mean, and a lot of those tracks, man, and he kept that same thing. So we were in the studio with, what was her name? Sheena Easton. And they were all doing it, just bouncing stuff all over the place, doing the same thing, because there was a certain thickness that they had to get, But what he used to do was, after the lead vocal was done, he would have the singer come back in. He would do this with Sheena, Brandon, all of them. He'd have them do the whisper track. And so, perfect example, Toni Braxton. That's why all her records sound so airy and so beautiful, is because after she'd sing the thing, he'd say, okay, now whisper the whole song, So,
just to fill it out.
Yeah. And they would bring up that whisper, the air, and just a slight plate verb, or a slight, not too much on there, but It just added so, and there's so many tips and tricks, but it all started with those Porter Studios trying to figure out how to make the best of what you had.
Yeah,
you
man,
know.
Oh
that's how
man,
everybody
I'm learning
started out.
so much.
Yeah.
It's so great.
And you know, the other thing that you find out when you're actually, you get put in the position of having to make your own albums,
Yeah.
and you start like sort of reading about or seeing documentaries about some of these other classic albums that were made, and you realize real fast that a lot of your favorite moments from any record that you're calling your favorite record are actually mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, in the 90s, you know, it seems like it's a trillion years ago, but, you know, in the 80s was really the first time that all of us studio rats got the idea that everything could be fixed. Everything could be fixed. We didn't have auto-tune back then,
No.
but everything could be fixed. There was a way to fix everything and make it perfect. And the 90s, in a lot of ways, the more rockier stuff was a little bit of a blowback against that. I mean, if you look at the grunge guys, but even look at a band like Collective Soul, like that sort of like free and easy kind of hippie vibe that they were about, things were a little bit looser. You know, I think there was a little bit of a, but then emo came in and it was just like, you know, as much as they all thought they sounded like the Sex Pistols, everything got fixed.
Yeah. Dude, I produced a couple of rock bands, and you say auto-tune, they would lose their mind.
Yeah.
You're not auto-tuning me. I'm like, well, hey, we can send it out this way. You're not in tune, you know, but go right ahead, you know. That's my sound. Okay, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Don't blame it on me. Take my name off of it.
You're a regular Johnny Thunders over there.
I know. It's like, good Lord, man. Anyway, so
Well,
listen, we probably kept you long enough.
Hey,
So,
I've enjoyed every minute of this. This has been one of the most fun chats because, like,
Naomi,
and
where
it's nice
are
to
you?
see you guys interact.
Yeah, that's good. We got to get up there.
I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what happened to me in Edmonton?
What?
I got laid.
Yes. Sex happens in Edmonton.
It was a long time ago, though.
It's a long time. I was a little slip of a girl back then. Don't
It's like a trip up to Edmonton.
It was with Rick Derringer and Edgar Winter. And
no way.
You know, what can I say? You know, I'd collect it and put it in a bottle and sell it to y'all, but I'm keeping it all for myself.
Hey, we kept running into Radiohead in Canada. Remember, I was like, you know,
Montreal.
we kept running into them.
Drunker and skunks.
Yeah.
They were so drunk, they were literally like statues of Radiohead. It's like Radiohead in the Wax Museum.
Yeah, right. Well, wish us luck. We're known for our hockey team, basically, for the Oilers because of Gretzky, right? So we're actually in the playoffs right now, and we're doing well. So
do you notice that my Rangers do not suck for once this year? I can't believe we beat the Penguins. I can't believe we beat the Penguins.
That's a big thing.
That's science fiction to me. I mean, I can't believe we're not, you know, I can't believe that we would beat like a girls field hockey team from like a junior high school, you know, although you know, the Rangers have one big thing going for them. And that of course is the New York Knicks.
Oh,
yeah.
What?
So,
what?
I hear one day we're actually going to get a professional basketball team back in this town, but apparently it takes a lot of money to do that.
You know, gotta get Jay-Z to buy it. Yeah.
At least the Mets don't suck this year, so
well,
that's really my team. That's really the only local sports I follow.
Even though I'm in LA, I still keep trying to hang on to the Reds. I tell you what, man, when the Bengals were in and we were out here, I was the only guy at the parties with the Bengals hat. I got so snubbed. You know, and I was mad at the end of the game. I'm like, why would you change your whole strategy at the end of the game? You know, you guys are killing me, man.
That was horrible. That was horrible.
Like, golly, you know. What do you do? I was the only one in the party with the Cincinnati.
Hey, the Bengals were such a great organization. They turned our mic on halfway through the national anthem when we sang it for them.
Well, listen, we lost our seat at the new stadium because they saw us on TV singing the national anthem wearing Cleveland Brown jerseys. So remember and Jeff wouldn't wear one and we all wore one. And next thing you know, we didn't have our seat anymore down at the stadium.
Yeah.
You guys can sit in the snow now. I'm like, hey.
I gotta say, the Browns treated us like we were rock stars many levels above our humble tier that we were on. I mean, the day that we sang for them, we had to race in early in the morning from another gig. We got a police escort to the stadium. We got a super ass box to like hang out in. I mean, and you know, those fans out there, I mean, I don't know. And they're also the best music fans in the United States, for my money. We get asked all the time, if you could only play one place for the rest of your life, not even something I can think about. Being from New York, Cleveland, Ohio, the best crowds, the best spirit in that town, and the loyalty those fans show to those teams, it's a thing of beauty. It cry, you know. And I mean, I literally thought like we were Elton John, like the way they rolled it out for us, you know. And the Bengals managed to turn on the mic halfway through our nation's anthem. I'm just saying.
What do you do? What do you do?
So, anyway, Naomi, we got to go, baby.
I know, but I can't wait to share this episode. I just want to make sure that, you know what? Hopefully we can do this again in the future. That'd be really cool.
Yes.
There's a lot of good stuff to talk about. And it's been a pleasure. I love you guys.
And there'll be plenty of video from this gig, so you'll see how we made out. But I'm telling you, look, again, we just show up and do what we do. But the times that we've already rolled this show out, and sometimes under really, really impossible technical hardships, and we've killed. I mean, we just kill.
First of all, we go in with the right attitude. You know, we go in with like, okay, we're just going to have fun. That's it. We're going to go in, we're going to have fun and do what we do. And like I said, we don't get to practice with each other. We don't even see each other until we show up. You know, okay, did you practice your part? Okay.
We're like Sam and Dave. Like Sam and Dave in the later years.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, wait a minute. You don't even know the song. It's okay. Let's go. You know, we'll make it up.
Not the Dr. Sketch.
Yeah.
I don't know if I hope Jeff's all good, but send my thanks.
Good. Don't worry about it.
Send my thanks to Jeff as well.
He's in Florida. They shut the power down there at 9:00.
Yeah. It's that daggone DeSantos or whatever his name is, right?
Yeah.
All right. And then I'll tag you guys and everything when it's all edited and ready to go. And it's
Naomi, thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Much.
This was an awesome time.
My best to the good people of Edmonton. As you can tell, I had me some good times in Edmonton.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Naomi. Thanks for remembering who we are.
Of course. I'm so glad to be able to share this story.
It really does mean a lot to us, for real.
It does, especially because we want to do, we're just doing this again and we're just having fun. We never really quit, we're just we keep moving. And like Charlie was saying, like Charlie was saying, we'll have some footage for you. We'll do this, we're gonna video some stuff and give you something to play with. So
that's awesome.
All right, girl. Love you. Take care.
Love you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Walk blind to the light, reach out for his hand. Don't ask him questions and don't try to understand. Open up your mind and then open up your heart. You will see that you and me aren't very far apart. I believe love is the answer. I believe love will find a way. Violence is spread worldwide.
Hey kids, put down that Tamagotchi and listen for a second. You know, you can follow us on Twitter at NostalgiaDope, Instagram at dope_nostalgia. Visit our website at www.dopenostalgia.com or pick up the phone and call us at 780-851-8785.
This podcast is licensed by SOCAN because we believe that artists should be paid for their work.